In today's video, we have our cobbler Jim Mcfarland with us to debunk 7 myths of shoe repair. I'm Kirby Allison, and I love helping the well-dressed acquire and care for their wardrobes. Join me as we explore the world of quality, craftsmanship, and tradition. Hey Jim, so great to have you in the office.
Thanks for having me.
So we have Jim Mcfarland, our third-generation, multi-award-winning cobbler that does all of the work for our Kirby Allison Certified Shoe Restoration Program here in our offices, really to just talk about not only the importance of shoe repair, but to debunk 7 common myths that we hear quite often. So Jim, there's no better person to have with us right now, not only because you do all of our work, of course, but because I can't think of anyone else with as much experience as you in the shoe repair trade.
Well, those are mighty high comments. I know a lot of great guys, but I really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So Jim does exclusively all of our work. So for our Kirby Allison Certified Shoe Restoration Program, Jim's hands are the only hands that touch the shoes. We have a pair of shoes right here that we sent through our shoe restoration program and put a totally new outsole on it and then finished it off with a nice mirror shine. And it's this quality. These are actually a pair of John Lobb shoes. And it's this level, so John Lobb, Edward Green, Gaziano, and Gerling, that upper tier of shoes that we've really benchmarked our program on to really create the highest quality restoration program out there.
Yes, I tell you, the type of shoes we're getting in, the quality is amazing. I've been doing this my whole life, and our quality level was, Allen-Edmonds, Alden, but with the stuff that's been coming in the last year, it's raised our game and our bar higher than I've ever seen. I've been doing this my whole life, and comparing what we're doing now to what I did 2 years ago, I can't compare it.
Well, we really had to push the envelope, and that was what was fun about it is, kind of traveling around meeting with bespoke shoemakers, going and doing factory tours at like Gaziano and Gerling, and seeing how it was that they were finishing their shoes, and how impossible it was to find that level of really bottom work here in America. It's really kind of what motivated me and kind of inspired me to kind of reach out and for us to collaborate on this project together. Mm-hmm. So I couldn't be any more happy with the results, and I think we've got almost a year behind us now.
Yes, and we're working very hard every week. It's just, every pair gets 100% of my care and attention. It's not like we're just slinging them out. We really put a lot of heart and soul into them.
Yeah, and you're doing all the work. I mean, this is also a very important characteristic of the program is that you take your shoes to a lot of shoe repair shops, and they've got other guys in the back that are doing the work, that don't have their name on the door. And, of course, my name's on this company. It's important for me to work with someone whose name is on his door also.
Yeah, it's definitely raised the level of stress. No stress. Just, as far as making sure that product meets the standards that the hanger project in Kirby Allison requires a lot. Yeah. So we have to put a lot into them. I can do a lot of regular shoe repair a lot quicker than I can do the program because we put a lot of care and of attention into every pair. Yeah,
well, that's what makes it fun. And so we've been going about this for about a year, and so there's a lot of common questions and misconceptions that I think that we have received and come across, and so I thought it'd be fun in this video to kind of go through our list of some of the 7 biggest misconceptions about shoe repair. So a quality restoration like this, without question, is more expensive than what you can go get a normal shoe repair for. I think our program starts at a little over $200, but we're using exclusively GRN DeBauch oak bark tamped leather outsoles, new heel blocks, JR top lifts, and then the time and attention that you're putting into the work. And so one of the biggest myths that we, I think, come across is that you can just go out and buy a new pair of shoes for what we charge.
Yeah, well, like I tell people, it depends on what kind of shoe you're buying. If you're buying a high quality shoe, it's going to be worth the investment. Not only are you going to get that comfortable shoe back, but you're going to get something that's going to wear at the highest level you can possibly get, because the materials don't get any better. Yeah, it's the best. It's the top of the line. So when somebody comes in and they give me that comment, I could buy a pair for less. And well, I mean, if you're spending $150 or less on shoes that are brand new and you're throwing them out every year, I mean, within 2 years, you could take that amount of money and invest in a pair of shoes that's going to last you
a lifetime.
Yeah, 15, 20 years or more, depending on how well you take care of them.
Yeah. I mean, I always say that, kind of Allen-Edmonds to me represents that minimum standard for someone that's looking to get into really fine footwear. So,
yes.
Open, pore, full grain leather uppers and, real leather outsoles, Goodyear welted so they can be repaired. Mm-hmm. And a pair of Allen-Edmonds, new, is less than $400. I mean, you can get them on sale for, less than $300. And you can get them on eBay for $50, mm-hmm. With a nice leather outsole and some shoe polish, can be worn easily for 10, 15, 20 years.
Yes. Yeah, and it's a great way to go. A lot of people are buying great vintage shoes on eBay. A lot of Allen-Edmonds, they're coming in, watching your videos.
Yeah.
They'll mention they're doing the $50 eBay
challenge. Yeah.
And they're coming in, and a lot of these guys are making the shoe better than it was when they got it new.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, this is a pair of John Lob's, the Warwick, and so this is an $1,800 shoe new.
Right.
So we had a customer, one of our viewers actually, that very generously came across this shoe for $75 in a thrift shop in New York. Wasn't his size, but he really recognized that this was a great shoe. Right. And so he bought it and sent it to us. And whenever we received it, it was in terrible condition, but with a little bit of shoe polish and with your work on the bottoms, I mean, this has been brought back up to the standard of an $1,800 shoe. And so someone that's wearing this, not only do they have a shoe that's going to support them more because it's well made, it's going to look great because it's good quality materials, but also, with these new outsoles, I mean, you could easily last 5+, if not longer, years, depending on how many pairs of shoes one has in their rotation.
Yes, and rotation is very important.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah, you can't just have one nice pair of shoes, right?
No.
Don't want to jump ahead of us.
That's right.
Another one of our.
That's right.
So, I think our philosophy here, at Kirby Allison is, of course, that if you invest in quality, you're really able to enjoy the longevity that you have with a nice quality pair of shoes. And there's no question that a really high quality pair of shoes, you feel better wearing them, they look better, and they last longer.
Definitely feels good wearing a good pair of shoes. Yeah. A lot of different ways to tan leather. The nice thing about the leather we're using, the oak bark tan, it's not starting with the way it's just tanned. It's starting from where the piece of leather is selected, mm-hmm. which is the tightest, strongest part of the grain. The fiber structure is the tightest. So right from the get-go, you're getting the best.
The best piece of the actual leather of the cow, right?
The best, the very best.
Mm-hmm.
And then the tanning process makes it even better. A lot of leathers are made in 30 days or less.
Yeah, and so that would be like a chrome tan, with drums and chemicals, to accelerate that tanning process.
Yes, and the JR leather's aged 8 to 12 months depending on the thickness.
Yeah, so it's a vegetable tan leather.
The oak bark.
Yeah, oak bark.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then another nice thing, a big advantage with the oak bark tannage is when they get wet, the tanning agents don't wash out. With a lot of other leathers that are where it's forced in 30 days or less, when they get wet, the man-made tanning agents
wash out.
They wash out,
yeah.
And the fiber structure becomes more loose, and then it starts to wear faster.
Yeah.
So whenever I get a pair in and I see it's been saturated, I can see where the grain is really separated.
Yeah. And you and I, we actually traveled to Germany together to Trier to go visit the GRN DeBauch factory. It's probably one of the most exceptional trips I've taken.
Yeah, it was amazing.
I mean, seeing the way that GRN DeBauch, tans their leather the same way today that they did over 100 years ago, literally using just tree barks.
Yes.
I mean, that's why it's called oak bark tanned leather outsole. I mean, it's a vegetable tanning process where they're just using bark and leather, layered in a pit, and then they fill it with water and let it soak and tan over the course of 6 to 9 months.
Yes.
It's unbelievable.
And what's amazing, they have this slogan, it comes from the earth and goes back to the earth. Everything they use is natural. Mm-hmm. Even when they're done with the oak bark, using it as a tanning agent, the oak bark goes into flower beds as mulch.
As mulch,
so
yeah.
Everything is returned back, and it's all biodegradable. It's all natural. So
well, there's a real narrative of conservation regarding quality, craft, and tradition. I mean, investing in a nice pair of leather shoes that you can take back and be resold versus just throwing them away every 1, 2, or 3 years really is environmentally conscious. I mean, it's investing in something, taking care of it, owning less but of a higher quality, not throwing it away, is really against kind of the phenomenon of mass consumerism and this kind of fast fashion.
Yes, and we're probably one of the, if not the oldest recycling business in the world. People have been mending shoes since they made them. That's right. And when people are buying cheaper materials and the younger, I'm the last of the baby boomers, at my age, and the people under me, they're really into the recycling and green and which is wonderful. And a lot of them don't realize that when you're buying a very inexpensive shoe and then you throw them away, those materials, those plastics and vinyls on those shoes, they're sitting in landfills for hundreds and hundreds of years. They don't go away. Yeah. But, you invest in a good shoe, you're having it a lifetime. And if it does get thrown away,
totally back to earth.
Back to earth, yeah.
And that's one of the other, I think, myths that is going to be our third myth, which is that leather outsoles don't last a long time.
Yeah. Well, there again, you're getting, depending on where that sole is cut from on the bend. With the JR, everything is cut from the very best, the shoulder muscular area, and where a lot of companies that will cut from the whole hide. And then you get into the belly and where the fiber structure is more loose.
So actually, whenever we were at the GR DeBauch factory, here's Hans DeBauch explaining that selection process.
To get the JR quality, you need a very dense and firm fiber structure. So that means you have to buy special hides for this tannage. And as a second point, you need the traditional natural way of tannage to get a very firm inside of the hide. So we buy all our hides in the south of Germany, or for the higher thicknesses we buy in Austria special hides which are the result of a carefully husbandry. This is very, very important for us.
So they come into here, this is where you're receiving all of your hides.
The hides are coming here by lorry, and then we have to butt the hides. That means they come on the butting table, and we have to cut the cow hides into 3 parts. That means we have the belly, this is the shoulder, we have to cut the shoulder for the orthopedic section. We have the flanks and belly, we do this for selling the products mostly to the Italian market because the fiber structure is too loose for us to produce, and the most important part is the double band, and this is later on for the full soles, and this is the most important part.
So this is the top kind of half section of the cow right here.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
And so this would be the tail.
Yes.
This is kind of the midsection.
Yes.
And so if we were to step back and think of which parts of this leather is most important for cutting the outsoles, is it this entire piece, or are there certain areas here that are more important than the other?
The best part of the band is in this area here. This is the firmest fiber structure. And if you go a little bit more to the flanks or to the shoulder, then fiber structure becomes a little bit looser. But we cut very short, so there is no danger. And we give the guarantee that our customer can use until the last part of the hide, every piece, because it's short and small cut.
These people that say, I wear a pair out in 6 months, 7 months,
Yeah.
You know, there's several factors that can be involved
Yeah.
there.
What's the fast tanning too? I mean, it's the, you know, taking something that with GR takes 6 to 9 months and doing it, you know, in 20 to 30 days, in a really chemical intensive process where they're stuffing the leather with these tanning agents.
Yeah.
You know, creates a leather outsole that the moment it gets wet, those tanning agents wash out, and then you have this soft leather that then is not very abrasion resistant. And
Right.
that's what leads to the very quick, you know, the quick wearing out of a pair of leather outsoles.
Yes.
And so whenever I visited the GR factory, I think one of the things that was really fascinating to me was realizing the difference between an outsole that's used in like a $90 shoe repair job,
Yes.
or that's used in like a $200 pair of shoes, and an outsole that's used, you know, in like a $200 repair job, like our GR, you know, DeBauch outsoles, or a, you know, several $100 pair of shoe, like a $500 Carmina's, or a pair of Edward Greens, or Gaziano and Girlings, or John Lob's. That's what gives those shoes the longevity.
Yes.
So a pair of outsoles like this, even if you're wearing them in the water, you know, not that you want to wear your shoes out in the rain a lot, but even if it's getting wet and you're walking long distances, is not going to wear out like,
No.
you know, cheaper leather outsoles.
No, they're tanned in water. They're just naturally resistant to it. If they get wet, the fiber structure gets even tighter. It doesn't let the water absorb all the way into the sole. So
Yeah.
it's the perfect leather if you're in the conditions
Yeah.
of elements.
Well, the other thing that I love too about a leather outsole is not only do I think that it's more refined and looks better, but again, it is a natural material that's going to breathe, it's going to absorb the perspiration of the foot, and actually produces a more comfortable shoe throughout the day that wears cooler and is just more flexible than like a rubber outsole.
It's actually a little lighter in weight too.
Really? Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Which
The
again,
GR.
over the course of a day, it really makes a big difference.
Yes. Yeah, and the lighter soles again are because they don't have the tanning agents, man-made tanning agents pumped into them.
Yeah. So my next favorite myth of shoe repair, and this is something that I think that we covered in some of our videos where we go inside the shop and see you actually restoring a pair of shoes, is that the cork filling has to be replaced every single time you resole a pair of shoes.
You know, it's tricky because one thing, if you take off the sole, and the first thing I do when I get a shoe in is, when it's a good shoe, I look inside at the insole and I look at the foot impression. Now, I'm a podorthist. I went to school to be a podorthist. I work with a lot of feet. I learn, about the bones in the foot. You have 26 of them in there, and a lot of people have problems with their feet. So for me, it's important to look at the footbed on the inside. That's the first thing I do before I even take the shoe apart. I look at their foot impressions. When I take that sole off, if that cork is beautiful and perfect, I mean, if you're just chipping it all out, pulling it all out, and replacing it, it's almost like, for what reason? I mean, the cork is absolutely perfect. Why risk changing something?
Yeah.
Because his foot impression's already in that.
Yeah.
But if he has if the cork's all loose and falling out, of course we'll
you
replace
replace it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that goes to our next myth, which is that it's better to send a pair of shoes to be relasted along with the shoe repair than having it done at a cobbler. And this all goes back to, I think, one of the fundamental virtues of a cobbler repairing or restoring a pair of shoes is maintaining the comfort of that fit. So oftentimes, if you send a pair of shoes to the factory maybe, and they relast them, again, you have that fit that you get to know and becomes more comfortable over time, can be disturbed and changed.
Yes, and a lot of times you can send them back and they'll take all the cork out, they'll re-welt them, and sometimes
Relast them.
Yeah, relast them. Now, sometimes a lot of these people have had their shoes for 10 or more years, and they've broken that shoe in to match their foot perfect. And a lot of us, unfortunately, have gained 15, 20 pounds over 10 years or so, once you get married and life goes on. And so your shoe has kind of grown with you. And another thing is your foot changes as you get older. Your arch doesn't always stay the same. If your arch falls, your foot gets a little wider, it gets a little longer. And when you've worn those shoes, and they've kind of broke in over time with you. So now if you send it in, they put the original last back in, and they just kind of go through everything. Now that shoe is back to where it was way back when, and now they come in and they're like, oh, they're too tight, I can't wear them.
Yeah.
That can happen.
Well, I've heard that complaint from other people, taking their shoes to other shops, and I think this goes back to, it's a myth. It's not necessarily the case where you want to replace the cork, only if it needs it, and then relasting the shoe and taking the welt off and re-welting it and redoing it can in fact fundamentally alter the shape of that shoe that made it comfortable.
It can. People get their shoes redone most of the time because they love them. They like the shoe.
Yeah.
They want it back to the way it was.
Even an old, worn-out shoe. It's amazing some of the things that we've had people send us that, you look at it, you'd say, wow, that would be something that maybe was time to be retired, but they just love that shoe. It's like an old friend. It's comfortable. You know how it fits. You enjoy wearing it.
I learned a lesson one time where somebody came in with some shoes, and they weren't super expensive. And he puts two of them on the counter, and he goes, look, you put the JR leather on my other pair, which I love. I know these shoes don't cost as much, but I love them. They're so comfortable. They're my favorite shoes. I'll never replace these. Put the JR on them. I want the longest wearing. And some people, it doesn't matter if it's a $400 shoe or a $2,000 shoe. Some people might have a shoe that's even a little less, and they just want the best wear they can possibly get on the shoe. We see it all the time.
Yeah. My next favorite myth of shoe repair, and one that I'm sure drives you nuts, and that is, this should only take a minute.
Yeah, that can be a tough one, and all my cobbler friends out there will agree. When somebody comes in, sometimes they will say, can you do this while I wait? It'll only take you a minute. Well, there can be a lot more involved than just a minute. The problem with a minute is or 2 minutes. You just can't really, it's hard to do a good quality job. Especially when they're staying out there waiting, and it never fails. Whenever they're rushing and you're trying to get it done fast, something happens, you break a needle or it doesn't sew straight because you're rushing it. I don't like to sling it out. And a lot of my friends that have shops, they don't like to sling it out.
Yeah.
We want to do a nice, clean, neat job. So if you give us the proper time, we can give you a really nice product.
Yeah, and that's again, with our certified shoe restoration, what underpins that is the fact that one, you're exclusively doing all the work, but really, taking the extra time to pick out the old, thread that gets, stuck in the welt whenever you cut the outsole off. Yeah. It's, spending time to, patch any of the cork if that needs to be done. It's, creating the new heel blocks. Yeah. All that, takes time, and there's no question it lengthens the amount of time it takes to do a restoration.
It does. And this program actually takes a lot longer than, what we do in our regular workshop, because we just go to great lengths and detail on this program to get, like you said, every stitch out and every stitch trying to get back in place.
And the original welt hole.
Yeah. And we're really striving, to put out the best product we can.
Yep. So a great example, I think, of how that investment in time in the restoration process lengthens the life of the shoe is the care that I know that you take to matching the holes that you're restitching the outsole through to the welt, right? Yes. Matching those holes is important to you.
Very important.
These little holes right here that the outsole is sewn to the welt on.
Yeah. Well, it's all important, and like I say a lot, people send these shoes in because they love them, and they want them back, like when they bought them, and we get them as close as we possibly can. We like to try to clone the shoe. I don't get creative and do anything. That's not my style. But we definitely want to give them back the product they love, the way they bought it, new out of the box.
Yeah. And our last myth, the myth of that I just need one nice pair of shoes.
Yeah, there are quite a few people out there like that, and there's a lot that goes along with only having one pair of shoes. If wearing them every day, you're not resting them. You know, you perspire in your shoes, and what happens, and a lot of people don't use shoe trees either, which is important, especially if you only have one pair of shoes. Those shoes start rotting from the inside out, cracking, the salt gets in there, they wear out much faster. You really need to have several nice pairs of shoes and give them a rest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think the general rule is, you know, at least a day in between every 2 or 3 wearings. I mean, I'll travel with a pair of shoes. If I travel with a pair of shoes, even if it's just for 2 or 3 nights, and I only have one pair, I religiously take my shoe trees with me.
Yes.
So that at least at night I can put the shoe trees back in to help restore that shape, you know, stretch them flat again, you know, while they're at least drying overnight.
Yeah, it's very important, because when you don't have a shoe tree in, that shoe literally slowly curls as it dries.
Yeah.
But with that shoe tree in there, it can't do that.
And then you end up with clown shoes, you know, bowing upwards kind of towards the sky.
Yeah, and you'll save your shoes from getting cracks on the sides of them too.
Yeah.
So
Well, great. Well, Jim, you know, thank you so much, and you know, especially for all of the incredible work you do with our Certified Shoe Restoration Program. And you know, if you guys have any comments about our shoe repair program and want to ask them in the comments section of this video, we'll get back to those as many as possible. I love the comments. It's one of our best ways to communicate with you. And of course, Jim and I are in close contact. You know, you're doing all of our shoes through our program. Anyone that wants to learn more about that, you know, please visit kirbyallison.com. And then, of course, check out the other videos we have with Jim Mcfarland, where we go inside his workshop and see him fully restore a pair of shoes.